I wonder if the incredible growth of that revenue is what gave Dario a little more confidence in taking the position that he took. Personally, I found it brave. It's very rare that any company is willing to do anything against what the federal government says. Like I've come from a world where we continually battle regulatory agencies, and it's a total nightmare. And most companies just comply. They just comply.
Easier to bend the knee.
You always bend the knee. Your shareholders want you to bend the knee. Like you always comply with the government because the government's right, and that's how the order works. And it's a bunch of bullshit. And so whenever anyone is willing to stand up to it, it's inspiring, frankly. So I liked seeing that, and I'm curious, like, what effect it'll actually have on their business, good or bad.
We'll see, Erik, this is such a good insight, because if Dario had shown up for all those Trump CEO meetings, if Dario had given $5 million to the Trump PAC, like I think Greg did, I just want to make sure I got it right. Greg Brockman gave $5 million to Trump's thing. Hugely unpopular, I'm sure, inside of OpenAI to do that. Even Tim Cook went and gave a gold bar and came to the Melania screening, which I think was more painful, probably. You have to play the game on the field is the common thinking. And I heard, Logan, on CNBC or Fox News, one of the two, an investor in Anthropic said, hey, listen, Dario's got to play ball. Like, you have to win the deal, play the game on the field. I think this is a lesson for him as CEO. Your take, Logan, on taking a principled stance and winning the crowd, right? Mm-hmm. Win the crowd, win your freedom, gladiator style. He got the crowd to use the product. They became number one in the App Store versus bend the knee. Where do you stand on this, Logan?
Yeah, so I think some of the thinking behind the negotiation was a little flawed, in the sense that if you're going to work with the military, and they're out killing bad guys, you probably have to accept that your product's going to be used to go kill bad guys. So like going into that and saying, well, actually, we want to use you to use it in the following ways is a bit odd. I think Keith on X used the analogy of that's like giving the Department of War a Mac and telling them how they have to use it, right? I think that was a little short-sighted in that regard. They could have been probably more balanced, but yeah, short-term upswing, and I think it goes back to the productization of these apps on top of Claude Code being number one for them. I read somewhere that that's about 2.5 billion of the current revenue, right? So Claude Code is the fastest growing product, but every new product and app that they spin up is generating stickiness, and it's because of their enterprise first orientation. And those enterprise relationships are over 80% of their revenue today, from the numbers we've seen. And OpenAI, that number is less than 5%, right? And so I think all those things are incredibly valuable. And then we talked about it earlier, which is the usage-based pricing model, right? Going to value-based pricing is such a huge aspect of the asymmetric growth. But it's been astonishing, but I think well-deserved overall.
I got to push back on Logan a little bit here.
Do it. Yeah, this is an important debate.
Yeah, I mean, Anthropic wasn't trying to tell the military how they can go kill bad guys. That's a bit disingenuous. They had two prerequisites, two terms in their terms of use that were relevant here. One was that they did not want their technology used for autonomous weapons, meaning weapons where there was no human in the loop.
Murder bots.
Yeah, I would call them what you want, like autonomous weapons, because they don't know that their technology is safe enough to use in that kind of capacity yet. I think that's an eminently responsible way to treat things. And two, their other requirement was you can't use it on wholesale surveillance of Americans. Basically, all they're saying is like, we want you to abide by the Fourth Amendment. That was not acceptable to the military. And so the military not only is like canceling the contract, but vilifying them and saying that other companies are not allowed to work with them either. It's that latter part, I think, that was quite gross. If the military doesn't want to work with them on those terms, that's perfectly fine. But
I think it's a good nuance, Erik. You're 100% correct that the framing was, as a provider of technology, this is new technology. These are not batteries that have been around for 50 years. And we know the circumstance under which they overheat, and you shouldn't have them under the airplane in storage, and you should follow these precautions with an electric car. This was, hey, we've invented this new battery, this new computer, and we, as the creators of it, don't believe it's ready for prime time. We believe that it will accidentally murder someone. Second, hey, we live in the United States. We hear about the Fourth Amendment. We don't want this being used internally in the United States to create a mass surveillance state, because this technology can do something that the camera at the 7-Eleven can't do, because it doesn't have a brain and it's not connected to every other camera on planet Earth. There's something between, I think, your two positions, which a reasonable group, I think you're both right, and a reasonable administration would have said, let's handle this behind closed doors. But instead, this is a performative group of individuals, and their core belief inside this administration is to never apologize, never be reasonable, and in fact, attack. So when somebody doesn't get an alignment line, correct me if I'm wrong, the operating system of Trump, as outlined in that movie about him, the documentary, was you're supposed to attack.
Yes.
And Dario is the one internet CEO of that scale company, I believe perhaps the only one, that has not bent the knee.
Yeah, I think a lot of it actually comes down to approach and tone more than the actual lines in the deal or the contract. I don't know if you guys saw, Washington Post quoted a Pentagon official has said they proposed to Dario during this meeting a hypothetical. They said, would Anthropic let the military use Claude to shoot down a nuclear-armed intercontinental ballistic missile aimed at the U.S.? And apparently, according to this Pentagon source, Dario's answer was, well, you could call us and we'd work it out, which they did not like. So to me, it feels like if that answer had been 10% more political, we might not be in this situation right now.
Logan, in all honesty, there was only one answer to, would you save American lives from a nuclear holocaust? The answer is yes, give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was a self-fail. Or he could have said, if that's technology you want to work on, I think we should sit down and actually build it for you, because we want to make sure it works when it does happen, because we all don't want to die in a fiery nuclear ball. But what do you think, Logan, if you were an investor in the company and Dario said, what could I do better?
Yeah, I think Dario has tended to politicize this a bit and has set a little bit of a trap for himself, which is, we want AI to be safe. I'm concerned about what AI is doing to society, and it's going to eliminate jobs and all these things. And he's kind of talking against his book in order to support his book in some ways. And he got caught in a little bit of a trap here.
It might seem like your startup can save some money by using a cheap tool for your device management and security, but you'll eventually end up paying out the difference and more in time and frustration. Take the guesswork out and trust our friends at Eru Endpoint Management. Eru is going to automate your device management end to end, so you don't have to worry about onboarding, endless app updates, and enforcing all of your company's various policies across your entire team's Mac, Windows, and Android devices. This is going to cut down all the time it takes you to deploy new devices from hours to just minutes. And that means less time troubleshooting, fewer tickets, and better security for your company's valuable data. Everyone at launch has a phone, a laptop. I'm even buying these kids' Plaud devices now because they're so good. You think I have time to worry about what apps they're installing on these things and what websites they're visiting and all the error messages they're going to get? I got to make podcasts all day long and make angel investments. Without Eru's system, my team would be wasting hours policing everybody's hard drives instead of doing valuable work that actually moves the ball forward. Twist listeners get 20% off when they book a demo at iru.com/twist. That's eru.com/twist.